Good evening, welcome to the studio this evening. Now then, so this evening we shall do some more carving of this eagle owl. This shall be made much more challenging because I have Junior laid on my knee at the moment. So I'm not quite sure what's going to happen here, but we shall see. In actual fact, I could do with him moving because I've got the wrong glasses on, but we'll see if we can manage to carry on with him here. And that's totally the wrong way to carve this, so I won't carve it that way. We'll try it this way instead. That's a bit better. Hello, Junior. Yeah. So still just roughing out. Lots of roughing out to do. Yeah, that's the better way to carve this. Not a great way to carve it, but a better way to carve it. Right, sorry guys I wasn't around yesterday. For some reason, I don't know why, just during the day, I completely lost my voice. I could hardly whisper. So, it would have been a really silent stream had I come on. I wasn't able to talk at all. It was kind of painful, but luckily I woke up this morning okay. Yeah. Suddenly thought then the carving wasn't actually on the camera, but it is. So I've about 3/4 of an inch of wood to get rid of here. So just lots and lots of turning perfectly good wood into hamster bedding. Yeah, this is not ideal to do with a cat on your knee, and this is splitting the wood, so that's not going to cut at all. There you go, you see, splitting the wood, which is totally the wrong thing to do. You can see it's really rough there. That's the danger of carving. If that had been down here, I might have ruined the particular piece I was working on. So that's something you don't want to happen when you're carving, is the wood to split like that. This is rather like sort of scooping butter out of a dish or something like that, or ice cream. Not quite as easy to do as ice cream would be, but it's on the same sort of thing, just taking lots and lots and lots of scoops out. What's surprising me is that this pussycat is quite happy sat on my knee here, being rocked about and what have you as I move around. He's making no intent of moving. It's kind of like, I'm here and I'm staying here. So this I can already tell is going to be an awkward bit to actually carve, just because of all the grain angle in here. To get into this place I'm going to essentially have to carve with the grain in a way that I'll be very vulnerable to actually splitting. Right, okay, I'm just trying to work out the best way to do some of this. Yeah, I'm going to watch for that, you see. Really all I'm going to do is carve onto the wood. I could do with using my different glasses for this, but that bit's not going to be too bad. I can use a flat chisel there, you see, to get up to the line. Yeah, looks like I'm going to have to switch to flat. So I'll be using a small flat chisel rather than a large one. I do have a sort of a 3/4 inch flat chisel, but at this stage it's too big. Right. Yeah, dear. I'm looking at this, just wondering which is the best way to approach doing this. See, I'm splitting the wood. Not a problem here, but not something I want to do. Okay, so yeah, I don't want it to split like that. This the wood grain is really in the right direction, but is in a really awkward direction. The wood grain is vertical here. I had no choice of doing it that way because of this piece of wood, but it's vertical and it's flat, or virtually flat, and that does actually make things harder. If the grain came up at an angle or across at an angle, it kind of would be easier to do this without it splitting, because you can then cut cross grain, but unfortunately it's not. So last night I noticed that American Truck Simulator had launched here in the UK quite early actually. I almost got it last night, but I thought I won't bother. It's on Steam, so it's not like they're going to run out or anything, which you might do in an actual sort of hard copy game, as you used to buy them from shops, CDs and things like that. But I've been so busy today, I haven't even watched anybody playing it. So I don't know if it's a game that interests anybody watching, but I was about to say, yeah, I guess if you're watching me, it probably doesn't interest you, because there's a fair few people streaming it, so if it interested you, I guess you'd be watching it. If you're watching to see me cut myself with these chisels, hopefully you're going to be disappointed, but the way I am cutting this towards myself is perfectly safe, by the way, in case that's making you cringe, as it might do. It's safe because of the way I'm driving the chisels, which means that I'm very unlikely to hurt myself. So sorry and all that, if that's what you're here for. Actually, I spent more time today watching Fortress Craft Evolved. It's a game I've been playing for a while. I don't know if any of you out there play that game. I know a lot of people describe it as Minecraft-like, but to be honest, the only thing that's like it, Minecraft-wise, is the square blocks, and you go mining, and that's about it. But it's a really, I find it a really fun game. Been playing for quite a lot of time now. It does have an objective, like Minecraft does, I suppose, but they're not the same objective. I've been watching on and off today because sometimes when I'm working I need some sort of sound in the background. It helps me concentrate on what I'm doing, so actually on the stream today I have had I've been watching, or not watching, listening to the developer of the game actually developing it. It's been quite a cool thing to do, seeing what's coming up and how they actually, or how he actually goes about developing the game, adding things to it. But if you've any sort of interest in sort of building things, or it's a survival sort of game, but it's more a game of developing resources to achieve a goal. You do have to survive. You can freeze to death or fall to death, but generally speaking that's about it. It's not, you don't have to eat or anything, but it's a cool game, so if that sort of thing interests you, I certainly recommend you check it out. I've got to remember to keep using this chisel the right way around. So what I do is cut downwards first. That creates what's called a stop cut, and then I can cut to that, which then releases the bit of wood I'm chopping out. Nice crunching sound, which means that I'm cutting the wood properly, which is what I'm after. Kaztan, good evening. Sorry about that. I just caught the mouse, which changed scene on me. Good job I noticed that. So all I'm doing is rough carving here. Rough carving just blocks out the shape, in this case of an eagle owl. And once I get the background down to the level that I want, I can then start to shape the owl itself. Now then, have I been intelligent enough this time, I wonder, to actually leave myself enough space? Some of the earlier or other carvings that I've done, I've gone really quite close and not really left myself enough space to get a chisel in, which is not ideal, makes it really difficult to do. So hopefully this time I've been intelligent enough and that's asking something, in order to have enough space to actually get chisels in and cut the wood out without having to get knives or start using ridiculously small chisels. Mind you, I am kind of using a smaller chisel than is ideal to do this particular sort of area, but the wood grain is forcing me to do it. I'm still surprised this pussycat is still sat on my knee. He usually doesn't like me leaning over the top of him, which is what I'm doing at the moment. So he's quite determined to stay tonight. Unfortunately, he's below the desk level, which doesn't make it easy. Otherwise, I'd put a camera on him for you. Or I'd put the camera on him for you. I'm sure more people would prefer to watch the pussycat than watch me. So this is all just rough cutting, so other than being careful I don't actually split wood out that I want to keep, I'm not too bothered about it being smooth or anything like that. As I get lower down, I will start to worry about that when I get close to the line I've got marked on the side. And that line I've got marked on the side is my back level. This is relief carving. So if you don't know what relief carving is, kind of think of it as an object which is stuck onto a backing board. It's kind of like that, except it's all cut out of one piece of wood, the backing board and the object. So it's not actually stuck on, it's just not separated from it. Now this is the relatively easy bit of carving, just removing all the backing material. As I say, it doesn't have to be particularly precise or accurate, or at this stage anyway. But you do have to be careful not to split away wood that you do want to keep just by doing something silly in terms of how you carve. Wood grain matters, and the direction of carving in respect to the wood grain matters. As long as you sort of respect those sort of rules of carving, then you can sort of just go at this however you like. Keep putting that stop cut in. That allows the wood to break free easily, or cut free, because I don't want it to break as such, and it stops it splitting and breaking off wood I want to keep. I don't grind them at all. I describe it as sharpening, but in actual fact technically it's a process called stropping, which restores a sharp edge on the tool, probably about every 10 to 15 minutes. It really depends on just the tool itself and how I'm using it. This one, because I'm taking relatively shallow cuts, I probably will take about 15 minutes before I decide it is worth honing or stropping. Something like a U-gouge, where you're tending to dig it into the material a lot more. That's 5 to 10 minutes, something like that. It really is just a case of recognising, hey, this isn't quite cutting as smoothly as it was, and then you just strop it at that point. So it's not a fixed interval or anything like that. It really is just when it feels right. But you don't need to take it to a grindstone or anything like that. That actually would destroy the tool a lot quicker. These particular tools will stay very sharp for a long time, even if they're not honed. Grinding them would actually just waste material. I mean, when you actually see the stropping process, it's very much more like polishing in a way. I'm sort of polishing the edge. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a jumper off. It's getting a bit warm here. That's because I'm expanding quite a bit of effort, despite what it looks like. The fine muscle control that I'm using actually gets you quite warm. So I'm just concentrating in this corner at the moment of doing this. That edge is down fairly low, but I've got to take the waste material around here. I've got to come all the way down this side. Some of it I've done already. I've got a piece in there as well that I need to remove, but we'll get to it all in time. If I get bored in doing this little bit here, I'll move and do another piece somewhere else. I don't have a particular sequence that I need to do this in. Hello Junior, yes you are getting covered a little bit in chips, Junior. Wood chips. As long as you don't just decide to leap up. I have to do have to be careful that he doesn't do that near the chisel, of course. You don't want him to hurt himself. Now that's a piece that needs to be cut off. Never, as they say, never pull wood off if it's if it doesn't come off by itself, like that one doesn't. That means you don't grab it and pull. Cut. Always cut wood off. So it basically will just brush off like that. If you pull it, that's when you will have a tendency to split wood more and actually potentially pull off an area of wood you want to keep. Now I've got about another 1/3 of an inch to go down here before I'm near the level I want to be at. So as I get closer, I do have to be a little bit careful doing these stop cuts because I don't want an outline around the piece. It'd be like a little valley. What I want to do is, as I get closer to the level I want, I don't do as deep a stop cut to the point where I just do enough just to cut the wood off. So I'm not left with what is effectively would be like a pencil outline, which I don't want. It doesn't look particularly good. There, yeah, so it just comes off like that. Actually, we will give this one a little bit of a hone, I think. Okay, so that is just basically a piece of leather on a block of wood, which just holds it flat, which helps keep the chisels flat, or the cutting surface of the chisel flat. And this is just a polishing compound. So I just spread that on there, a little bit of it on there. All I do then is just draw this chisel backwards. Don't need to do it much. Effectively, the chisel's blunt because there's a burr, a little curved edge created. And all this is doing is straightening it out. So that's enough, and then I just do it once the other side because there's a burr. Drawing the chisel backwards straightens it out, but it has a tendency to bend it backwards, so you then need to just flatten it. And it's that's the really sharp edge that you end up with then. Now this should be quite a bit sharper than it was before, and it is. It's quite, I was going to say funny, it's not funny. I find it interesting how it seems sharp, maybe not quite as sharp as it was a few minutes ago, but it still seems sharp until you actually sort of polish it like I did there, strop it, and then I come to make a cut like that and it's considerably sharper, and you go, how on earth did I not notice that difference? But you don't. And you're quite happy that you are, aren't you? Now I'm going more or less straight down here because of just the way angles and things like that, the way I'm working at this piece of wood. I am creating a slight slope, but it's actually not really a problem. It means the bird will be slightly fat. But what I'll do is, once I've cleaned it down, I'll be able to go straight down, and then I'll shape the edges. So just this, yeah, hello. The wood grain here means I can't actually take great big chunks of wood off. I have to do it in smaller passes. Gotta be careful not to go too big. That's getting a bit large. It can be very easy to just overcut or make a too large a piece. And the larger the piece, the more likely it is to split. Okay, whilst I'm doing that, you might see some more carving pop up on the photograph rotation that's there. I think Ruth, which was the last piece, a big dragon that we carved, will appear there at some point. And you can see some of the other crafts that get done on the stream as well. The black and white stuff that you'll see is scraper board, which is a way of creating monochrome artwork. It's a black board, or it's actually white porcelain clay, which is covered with black Indian ink, and you create the picture by scraping away the ink, and that can create some really interesting images. The wall looking images, which you'll see, is punchcraft. It's a kind of a miniature rug making technique, and they're quite fun to do. What else comes up there? The obvious one that you're seeing there is the jewellery. That's a technique called chainmail. So if you're familiar with, or you think you're familiar with chainmail as in armour, chainmail isn't armour, it's how the armour is made. So chainmail is the technique of weaving the rings. It just most people tend to think of the two as the same thing, but they're not. So I use chainmail to make jewellery like you see there on screen. There's quite a few pieces there. We do tend to make more jewellery than anything else, just because it's quicker to make a piece of jewellery than it is to carve a board. and I do tend to sort of spend roughly about the same amount of time on each craft when I do them. But the jewellery items there, if there's any that look interesting, are available to be bought. They're made to order, and you can see the Etsy shop there, zaragonart.etsy.com. You can, if you take a look there, you can order any of the pieces that you see. All of them actually have been made on stream, so at least once. And I'm gradually, really slowly, but gradually working to try and get a time lapse of making everything, including things like this carving, up on YouTube as well. Unfortunately, I don't have a nice friendly URL yet for YouTube. They won't let me have one, not until I get, I think you need, I can't remember how many followers, but you need a number of followers before you get to have a friendly URL. So for the moment you have to search for Zaragonart. Zaragonart, all one word, and then studio. I think there's three videos up there at the moment. 2 making jewellery and 1 pyrography, or is it 2 pyrography, 1 jewellery? I can't actually remember. But I will, as time allows, and unfortunately at the moment time doesn't allow very much. A couple of things going on. I'm looking for a job at the moment. Well, I have an interview next week, and also I'm having a new studio is being built, and that's taking up a bit of time as well. I'm sure I've missed a craft out in talking about what those pictures are. There is pyrography. Oh, pyrography is the one I don't think I mentioned. Creating pictures with heat, otherwise known as wood burning, although I don't burn wood. Well, I was going to say at least I try not to. Don't actually burn wood at all. No flames involved in pyrography. Not here anyway. There are some pyrographic artists that use flames. Use some really hot ones as well, like acetylene torches, but I do it using electrically heated tools. A lot safer to do in the house. The main danger you have from carving, and I know everybody, if you've ever been taught anything to do with using chisels or knives, is always the opposite of what I'm doing here. I always teach you to cut away from yourself, but it is safe if you know how to do it. And beginners don't, which is why they teach them the safe way, which is don't cut towards yourself. The main danger I face actually is getting a splinter, more than anything else. Safety with carving is about blade control. It's knowing where the blade's going to go, controlling it so it only goes where you want it to go, and not being in the way if it goes wrong. Okay, that's Junior gone. You may have just seen him across there. That's good, that means I can get a bit closer to what I'm working on, which makes it a bit easier for me. Right, that also means I can switch my glasses. So I shall be back in just a moment. And I'm back. My glasses case was on my other desk, which is why I couldn't get them with Junior there. But I'm getting old. I need glasses. Well, my eyes are getting old anyway. Okay, so let's give this chisel just a little bit. Let's make it a little bit sharper. Put a bit of polish on. Hold it at the right angle, draw it back. Turn it over, put it back a couple of times, and that's it. That's a lot sharper now than it was a moment ago. Well, I don't know if you can see, but I can sort of shave this wood now with this. So it's great for smoothing off, but I'm not smoothing off. So, but you can take really fine cuts with a sharp chisel. And when you're working with edged tools like this, sharp is safer than blunt. Always a good idea to have sharp chisels. You're more likely to hurt yourself with a blunt tool than you are with a sharp tool. Just because blunt tools you have to use more force to drive through wood in this particular case. And in using more force is when you are more likely to do things incorrectly. And more force means less control. And less control means more likely the blade's going to go somewhere you don't want it to. So whilst I'm doing that, if anybody has any questions, you are quite welcome to ask. I don't mind answering questions about what I'm doing or about any of the other crafts that I do. Indeed, a couple of crafts that I do that you don't see, or I have done, I'm not doing them at the moment, is airbrush. I'm an airbrush artist. I also engrave glass, and I do some power carving as well, which I can't do at the moment on stream just because I need a dust mask to do it, which means I can't talk very easily, or I need an extractor fan, which is behind me, and I can't set up for streaming over there. So at the moment it's all hand carving. Same with the glass actually. That's done with high-speed tools, and you create glass dust, and that's not something you want to breathe. So for the same reason as with the wood, and that's why I don't stream those at the moment. Hopefully with the new studio I may get the chance to do so. We shall see. And if you're watching and not following, hopefully you're enjoying what you're watching. Feel free to follow. I would say that, wouldn't I? But that's perfectly true. Feel free to follow, and if you let Twitch, it'll notify you when I go live. I do try and stream every night. As I said, at the moment, personal circumstances do sometimes make that difficult. with work and things like that, I am hoping to secure a job shortly, and if I do, that will help get me back on into more regular streaming. I do tend to stream from about 8 PM in the UK. That's 2000 hours UTC or GMT. I do tweet as well when I go live. I think it's mentioned on the left there, yeah. Twitter at Zaraganart. Don't really tweet a great deal. And it usually is about the stream or something new that's gone into the shop. So if you're worried about lots and lots and hundreds of tweets from me, I'm not that sort of tweeter. So I don't know if anybody's seen any cool crafts being done on Twitch recently. I haven't had a lot of chance to look at the creative section for a while. It's a case of come in from work, eat, stream, go to bed at the moment. So I don't watch much. I have seen some really interesting stuff done, and people turning wood. I like watching physical crafts. I call this physical craft, art crafts. There's a fine line between what's an art and what's a craft. But quite a few pyrographers. Browncoat Captain, for example. If you're interested in pyrography, look out for him. Pepper cutting. There is now I want to say Tweety Bird because of her logo, which is now and her name has now escaped me. Clavybug. So if you like to see paper cutting, take a look at her channel. She tends to stream during the day if you're around. Quite a few streamers. I've seen people throwing pots, as in taking the clay and turning it into something on a potter's wheel. It's interesting how some terminology, English terminology at least, can be read two ways. You know, like throwing a pot. Quite why it became throwing a pot to do that, I'm not quite sure. The words are funny things. Hello, Clavybug. I don't know. What have you been doing with them? I was trying to remember your name, and all I could think of was Tweety Pie. From the cartoon, but because of the logo. So how are you? I've seen you streaming in the past couple of days, or I've seen the notifications, but I haven't been able to watch. That's a too deep a cut. Close enough, yeah. There's that Looney Tunes logo of yours. So you're doing paper cutting today, I think it was, wasn't it? And You were doing bracelets yesterday. See, what I need to do is I need to win the national lottery. Really hard to do since I don't actually buy a lottery ticket. But with a modest win, a couple of million or so, I'd be able to sit and watch streams all day. Wednesday afternoon next week. I was intending to be on holiday all next week, but I'm not going to be now on Monday. I could be afford to be a little bit rough with the wood here. I know I'm splitting it off. I mean, it's fairly well controlled once I pass this edge here. But it allows me to use the straight chisel here, flat chisel, and get rid of a fair bit of the material quickly. Yeah, very. I can do the job. The problem is just the circumstances make it nervous. Hello, ladies, Ava. Yeah, be careful, otherwise I'll end up splitting around there. I don't want that to happen. Make sure I get the stop cuts in. I'm sure I said 1/4 of an inch earlier on, but I'm that used to centimetres these days. I've got 1/2 centimetre. So I'll get down close to the line. I won't actually go down to the line. I'll use a big chisel when I do that. That will actually get me help make sure I create a flat surface. You can do this using sort of a mottled background, or you can do flat. I tend to prefer flat, unless of course I've just made such a mess of it. A mottled background hides all the mistakes. But I usually prefer the flat background. I think it looks nicer. Clever Bug says hi. Yeah, that's quite a nice surface. I don't usually get this wood grain, as I mentioned at the start of the stream, is the way it is on this piece of wood is both nice and challenging. It's nice because it's flat and it's vertical. It's challenging because it's flat and it's vertical, which kind of it's an odd situation. Being flat and vertical means that you get quite smooth wood surfaces, and being vertical helps just with the general shaping and things. But just being flat and vertical means that it can be quite difficult to actually, if you cut along the grain, you tend to split it, and of course being horizontal it's really easy to split across, and it means that you've kind of got to cut slightly at an angle most of the time, and that just makes it a little bit more challenging to do. Or should I say, it makes it a little bit more challenging to do when you're sort of at the kind of beginner level that I'm at. I'm by no means an expert or even master carver, to say the least. I really am just a beginner in doing this, and I'm learning with each piece that I carve. But that's the fun bit about carving, and about, you learn as you go along, or you learn as you get better. I suppose that's by definition, isn't it? If you weren't getting better, you couldn't be learning something. Oh dear, words, English words, concepts. We say some really daft things sometimes. Most of that sound that you can hear from the chisel is wood breaking there rather than being cut, or the fibre splitting. Not the best of things, but when you cut the wood it has a tendency to have a shushing sort of noise. Sharp noises is when the wood's splitting. And as I mentioned, splitting is not really what you want most of the time. You can deal with it, as I'm doing down this edge here, if it splits. The wood grain helps in that respect. It keeps it from coming into the piece of wood, so I'm not as concerned as I might be if the wood grain was in a different direction, and I can sort of put up with a bit of the splitting, but I really should be doing it so that I don't split the wood, I actually cut it. Right, let's give this chisel a little bit of a hone. It's feeling a little bit blunt. All this black stuff that's on here is actually metal off the chisels. Polishing brings a very small amount off each time, and that's what's on the leather there. So it gets surprising just how much you can't see how much it's taken off, yet it does end up on there. Right, that's a lot sharper. I can shave the wood now, like that. That's one of the techniques I use to flatten it, but I generally will do it with a... I'm just playing at the moment. I'm not actually trying to flatten the wood, but I'd normally do that with a larger chisel. The wider the chisel, the easier it is to get flat, but that's quite nice. If that was somebody on stream who was just favouriting an item in the shop, thank you very much. The shop, if you hadn't noticed it, is Etsy, zergonart.etsy.com, where the jewellery items that you see in the left hand side, all of which are being made on stream, they're actually available in the shop, made to order. And I've completely lost my train of thought. Yes, they're available in the shop, made to order if you're interested in any of the items. We're getting close to close to the line. I'm not going to go right to it as I mentioned earlier. What I'll do is go around the whole of the piece, get down to this sort of level, and then we'll smooth down the background all the way across, create a flat background, and actually take it down to the final line as we work our way around the whole piece. So I'll leave myself plenty there. Okay. What's wrong with listening to me on the stream? I think it's interesting, and being able to see carving as well, Clary Bug. It's got no taste. Well, not much taste anyway. Okay, well I suppose that's reasonable then. And there's Moobot just dropping some links into to chat for you if you want to take a look there. There's the Etsy shop, as I mentioned earlier. I've got 3 items which are available ready-made at the moment. I just happen to have those, so if you're interested in something that's ready-made, can be sent immediately, then take a look at the items there on eBay. I couldn't remember the name of the place then. Of course, there's a Facebook page there as well if you would want to follow me or look at things on Facebook. I guess I ought to tell Moobot about my own website as well. That's the one on the left hand side, zergonart.com. It has a little bit more in-depth information about some of the crafts and some of the pieces that have been crafted. Again, it's a case of finding some to-its to get round to it and to add to that website, but I will get there. Another reason for not going all the way down to finish level whilst I'm carving this, if I do things like there, which I slipped off and drove the chisel into the top surface here, because I'm not down at final level, doesn't matter, I can just carve that bit away. Okay, lots of wood there. I'm not going to pull it off, as I said before. Always cut the wood away, don't pull it off. Actually getting through quite a bit of wood on here tonight. Going through it a bit faster than I was expecting. Which is good, I like making the progress. Mind you, without Junior on my knee, it does help. I don't have to work around a cat. I don't know where he's gone. He's probably gone back to his favourite sleeping place at the moment. Which, knowing our cats, is right in the middle of whatever is a useful place for you to be and not them. Like in the middle of the floor or the middle of the stairs, something like that. Aldel H, hello, good evening and welcome. Nice to see you again. And Eat More Chips, good evening, welcome. Okay, yeah. Just looking where the line was. I like that. Yeah, so do I. Well, let's hope I can do it. Do the bird justice. There you go, you see, Eat More Chips. Told you that'd happen. Well, I think I did anyway. think I'll be happy if this actually just resembles a bird at the end of it. Be nice if it does look like an eagle owl. They are big birds, are eagle owls. Don't know if anybody's actually seen one in real life. I've seen a couple now. About 3 feet tall, and I think their wingspan's about 6 feet. So rather large birds. They have feet, claws as big as my hand. And I know it's a bit difficult to tell how big that is on screen, but I don't have small hands. And they've got great big talons on the end of it. And of course the beak, that sort of, yeah, you don't want to compete with the beak. Don't want to compete with the talons either, but yeah. Not the best of reasons, eat more chips, but it works. I love that sort of slight crunching sound when you cut cross grain. And although I'm actually driving this chisel at this point with my elbow off the table, my hand off the table, you can see me using my left hand here to keep control of the chisel, stop it sliding off where I don't want it to go. And I'm not putting a lot of force into this. If it was needing a lot of force, that would be telling me I'm doing it wrong. Which is why I'm not driving really deep here either. Do multiple cuts rather than try and do one big cut. That is also a much safer way to use sharp tools. The last one. The last project was pyrography. It was a portrait. I've still got it here for the moment. Before it goes away. That was the pyrography. So it went quite well. says it. Thank you, Aldel H. That will be going to its own shortly. I can't remember what I did before then. I think before that I was doing the lion. Don't know if you've seen the lion. Yeah, okay. Well, I'm going to show off though. For anybody that hasn't seen the lion, that was the lion. I actually haven't quite finished it, but I was getting a little bit tired of doing hair. I do need to do a little bit more work on the hair to get the shaping right around the mane here, but I'll come back to that at some point. So that's for anybody that hasn't seen the lion. The lighting here it reflects off it into the camera a little bit awkwardly, so it actually looks a little bit better in person. Thank you, Eat More Chips. Yeah, we did a leopard before that, but that was in scraper boards. So. I do seem to do a lot of animals, either carving or any of the other art forms. Don't often do the portraits. Which is a pity in a way, because I need more practice at doing hair. Now, just doing down here now is when you do have to be a little bit careful at not to pull the wood away, because you can end up undercutting here or pulling it out so that you pull the underneath out, and that's when you lose your shape. It's easy to do as well if you're not basically not concentrating, because it's kind of automatic just to get. Yeah, there's a bit of piece of wood just to grab it and pull, and that's when you can run into trouble. That's where the stop cut comes in very, very useful, making sure that there is, as you're working, you've got a stop cut down there, and then because the wood's already separated, there's actually a small gap. If you do accidentally sort of just grab a piece of wood and pull, it can't go past that gap, or rather it just splits away at that gap. Just like that did there, it split slightly, and it just came away where the stop cut was. When you do anything like this as well, it's always good if you to wear safety glasses. I'm wearing glasses. These are plastic lenses. So if you flick a piece of wood or anything, it doesn't go in your eye. I can do fur, Aldel H. It's actually sort of people's hair that I'm not that good at. I need to practice on. Perhaps I ought to say hairstyles more than hair. Fur is easy, kind of, if you want to do it sort of one hair at a time. Because in animals, you know, the fur always tends to go in one direction in one particular place. Of course, hairstyles can be anything you want them to be. So, getting a good representation of a hairstyle can be the fun. And of course, doing purple hair can be quite difficult. Okay, that's that's quite funny. Eat more chips. Weird, but quite funny. So rather than get my fingers amongst these and possibly get splinters if I just get my fingers caught, I'm using the brush. Of course, what it does mean is I've got to make sure the brush bristles are clean, so that if I use it with things like the scraper board and I've left some slivers of wood in there, the slivers of wood will actually scrape the scraper board, so I have to make sure it's clean. Yeah, carving, yeah, the cracking, not necessarily a good sound. Cracking wood is wood that's coming apart in an uncontrolled fashion. So that's, you know, when you're carving, that's not a good thing. When you're splitting a log, yeah, so what? But if you're carving and you hear that splitting sound, it's not a good sound. We'll give this blade a little bit of a hone in a moment. It's getting a little bit less sharp. We'll quite often describe it as feeling blunt. It's by no means is it blunt. It's relative. But you know, it's feeling blunt to me, but as you can see, it is cutting this wood relatively easily. But it is taking a little bit more energy to do that than it should, and that's when I describe it as being blunt. But Actually, it's the same thing with tree branches. Eat more chips. If you're walking around a tree and you hear a cracking branch, that's not a good sound. It's a place you don't want to be when a branch is cracking. I know what you mean, but yeah. Sometimes being a control freak is useful. You know, you want to be in control of certain things like that when you're around them at a safe distance. Oh dear. See, I'm doing this, I'm shaving down the side here, and I should be not using a lot of force to do it. So a moment ago it kind of slipped and hit the back with a thud, and essentially that's uncontrolled movement. I ought to be able to apply just enough force for it to slide down the side and create a cut, rather than applying too much force and it thuds and hits the background. But that's just developing the skill and the practice with the chisels. Well, I mean, that's not particularly old for oak trees, but there is a time when it's a good idea that they're pruned or taken down, but then that's when it's a good idea for professionals to do it, who know actually what they're doing, and they can do things like reshape a tree to make it, give it a longer life and things like that. I might describe it as take them down elder age rather than that, but yeah, along those lines. And if you have to take them down, yes, using them as fuel is a good idea. That way you don't waste them. One of the hard things to do when you're cutting a background, or down to a background like this, is actually to do it flat. You tend to come up, partly because of the way you're using the chisel, but it can actually be quite difficult to get the same depth across. Of course, that's again skill. You know, a skilled carpenter has no problems at all doing that, but it's something you actually have to practice and develop. And there is ways of making it a little bit easier. I'm using the chisel the right way up, but when it comes to doing the final shaping, I'll actually use the chisel upside down, and when I do that I can lay it flat on the wood, and so I know I'm getting a flat surface that way. Doesn't always mean it's level, but it's flat. The two aren't the same. Paper is actually surprisingly very rough. If you ever look at the edge of a paper in a microscope, it's really rough. It's not I mean a knife actually is, to be honest, or even a razor if you actually look that deep. It's that rough edge that actually does the cutting. If it was perfectly smooth it would not cut as well, but there is sort of, if you look at paper, it's really rough, it really tears. And that's it's kind of not surprising, but yeah, paper cuts hurt more than a knife cut of the same size, and they hurt for longer as well. Wood splinters are kind of the same thing. I know they're not, they're a really rough cut, which is why I do tend to be a little bit careful, and I'll use the brush. Or don't ever use your chisel, by the way. it's not a cleaning tool, it's a cutting tool. Use it for what it's meant for. It's not a screwdriver either. Fastest way to blunt your chisels is not to use them as chisels. They're also not levers, which is why I'm not levering this piece of wood off. I'm cutting it off. So I'll keep working around the edge here until I find whatever bit of wood it is that's holding this piece of wood in place, and then I'll cut it. It'll only be a little sliver somewhere, but there we go, and it's now free. Yeah, they can be very hard to get out, especially once they've gone below the skin surface, but equally you're sort of, the way your skin is constructed, if it can find a path to the surface, it will pop, they will pop out. So it's just quite often when you get a splinter, the skin goes back over the top, which makes it hard for it to get out. So if you can give it a path to get out, they quite often will just pop out. Of course, me telling you guys about things like don't use your chisel as a lever is partly just to remind me while I'm doing it, because I will automatically just do it without thinking. Tell you guys about not to do it reminds me not to do it, so you get to learn something and I get to remember something. See, very educational stream this at times. Other times I just talk total gibberish like I'm doing now. Okay, uncontrolled split there, right to the end. It's because I'm shaving off too much wood. Not, again, controlled in this particular case. A controlled uncontrolled split. I know that's kind of an oxymoron, but there are times when the risks involved to the wood or to the piece are small and you don't mind. It's controlled. They do use cyanacrylate adhesive or super glue, as you call it, eat more chips. But generally speaking, it's a special version when they use it medically. It's not the same sort of stuff you buy in the local shop. It gives off the stuff you buy in. Well, the adhesive itself, when it sets, gives off heat. And it can give off quite a considerable amount of heat, so which can actually burn your skin. So it's the version that they'll use in medically is a special version that is formulated not to give off a lot of heat. Obviously, what they don't want to do is fix the gap and then burn you, which is it kind of defeats the object. But ideally what you shouldn't do is if you get your fingers stuck together with that sort of adhesive, don't use a knife. Use something like a back of a spoon or a handle of a thin handle of a spoon, just anything sort of that sort of shape. I've just got to just gently prise apart. So that you don't literally tear your skin off or cut your skin. It's not a good idea until it separates. You can also get a solvent or release agents for that adhesive that you spray on, and then it will just peel apart. That's what they do in hospitals. Yeah, it was hot. Yeah, bad idea. Definitely a bad idea. And the thing about that sort of glue is it sets in the absence of air, so it tends not to dry of its own accord. It takes a long time to dry out in open air. It'll set almost instantly in the presence of two things: no air and water. So if you've got that's one way in which they set that glue. In model making, for example, if you wet both surfaces, put the glue on, stick them together, it sets almost immediately. You can also buy catalysts which actually set it faster as well without needing to be as wet, but that's why things like you know, they say keep it away from your eyes because your eyes are wet, or if you literally your hands are damp, they'll stick a lot more quickly together. Okay. Yeah, model making. I tend not to use that glue very, type of glue very often for model making. Use it for tacking things more than actually gluing joints together, because it's quite hard to use properly and to get a good strong joint with, depending on the modelling material, of course, that you're using. Right, I've got a bit in here to do. This isn't the ear of the owl, even though that's what it looks like. It's just this bit is just like it's a tuft of hair off the top of the head. Kind of makes it look like they've got ears, but they're not. The ears are roughly where yours would be. Now, excuse me having my arm in the way, but I'm driving the chisel downwards at this point. If that was somebody who's watching the stream who just favourited an item in the shop, or the shop itself, thank you very much. The shop being xavaganart.etsy.com, as it says on the left hand side of the screen there. I get a little noise, you see, when anybody does that on the phone, so I can tell. Now that curve around there is just wide enough to do this with a flat chisel. Sharp curves you can't do with a flat chisel, just because, or generally speaking, it's really hard to do with a flat chisel, of course, because you can't get the chisel across the diameter. Yeah, another good thing, if you ever do eat more chips, then you visit a hospital. Don't try and do it yourself. Getting into a League of Legends game now. Okay. Alright, Aldel H, well, I'm nearly actually finished, I'm afraid. It's coming up to 10 o'clock at night, which is when I'll be finishing. And I've nearly finished this section of the owl anyway, of clearing this, for now, this area of the owl, so once I have done this I will be stopping for the evening. But enjoy your game. thank you for dropping in. Now, I've done quite a lot tonight, more than I was expecting. Yeah, LLH, I guess so. I hope I'll be around tomorrow. Because if I believe tomorrow. Okay. So I've just been reminded by Lady Zara I won't be around tomorrow. So sorry about that. Tomorrow's Thursday. Okay. I've just been reminded of something that I have to do tomorrow, so I won't actually be around tomorrow. So if there's anybody watching that isn't following, then what I suggest you do is follow me either on here on Twitch and enable the notifications, or follow me on Twitter. And that way, when I do go live, you will get the message either from Twitch or from Twitter. Preferably follow me on both, and that way you'll get one or the other. So it would seem that hopefully next time I'll be live is on Friday. Then I'm on holiday for a week, sort of. It will be nice to be on holiday without having to go into work for a week. Claire's is Clarybug. There you go. That was Claire's Twitch name. Right, well, that this isn't finished. It's about a quarter of an inch. Well, sorry, it's a few millimeters off the final depth on there. It's closer at this side, and this isn't flat by any means, but it's a good working point to leave it to do some of the other areas, like this bit here, which we started on the last stream, and there's a piece in here that needs to come out as well, taking it down to roughly the same level, and then you can get the big chisel out, the wide chisel, and then start working the down to the final surface depth or close to it. Again, probably not all the way down, just to allow the chance of smoothing the surface out again if we make sort of slight mistakes with taking the body of the bird down. So the next stream will be probably doing this bit and then the bottom bit down to this level, smoothing it out a little bit before we then actually start and shave the body of the bird to bird shaped. Be probably another couple of streams doing this the background, certainly another one to take this down and that down, and then probably another one working on the background before we actually start the bird itself. But that's it for tonight. I've now got a period of time when I've got to pick up all this stuff which is all over my desk and actually get it in a bin without putting it all over the floor. You should be able to eat more chips. If you're still around, Claire, if you type a message it'll make it easier. Otherwise you'll need to find it. You might already be following Eat More Chips, which might be what makes it awkward to follow if you're already following. Anyway, yes, so that's going to be it for tonight, I'm afraid. Thank you everybody that's watching. Again, the reminder, check out the shop, Etsy, zaragonart.etsy.com. Of course you've got Facebook there, Twitter at Zaragonart, and check out on YouTube. You'll need to do a search, unfortunately, on YouTube for Zaragonart Studio, Zaragonart all one word. There's some time-lapse videos up there at the moment. I will get more up as I can. Silinda, thank you very much for following, and that reminds me, feel free, anybody else, to follow me here on Twitch as well, so you obviously get to know when I go live again. Not tomorrow night, as I mentioned, unfortunately, fortunately, depending on your point of view. Hopefully I will be live again on Friday. Keep an eye out on Twitter. If I can't make it, I will tweet that, but otherwise a message will go out to say I'm live, so you'll be able to drop into the stream then. If you really just want to try and catch me, apart from tomorrow night, I do try and be on from about 8 PM UK time. That's 2000 hours UTC or GMT, both the same, which is about 2 hours ago in whatever time zone you're in. So thank you and have a great night, and I'll say goodbye for now from Yorkshire in the UK.